today's discussion with this, that China's republic was established. Okay. As I told you that China always thought to preserve the tradition within themselves. They did not wanted to experiment. They did not wanted to mix with Western ideas, with the Indian ideas, with the Chinese idea and mix it up and jumble up and create something new. No. They always wanted to keep the tradition as it was. So, they had three type of views. I told you last day that they had one view who said that shed Asia, take West. Some say that no, tradition is the best. Some say that take the goodness of both and mix it. And the foremost thing is to remove inequality, poverty, this type of thing. Okay. So, now we can see that a man whose name was Sun Yat-sen, Sun S-U-N-Y-A-T, Sen S-E-N. Sun Yat-sen, he established a republic in China in 1911 by overthrowing the Manchu dynasty. That means before 1911 in China, monarchy was ruling. The monarchs were there and the monarchs were the Manchu dynasty. So, they were ruling in China, and in 1911 a Republican party grew up and the leader of the Republican party was Sun Yat-sen. So, he revolted and he removed the dynasty and created a republic under him. Now, who was this man? Who was this Sun Yat-sen? He was known as the founder of modern China, because he was the man who actually started the process of modernizing. Okay. And he came from a poor family, but he had a very good education. He studied in a missionary school, and in the school, as it was a missionary school, he got introduced to the ideas like democracy and Christianity. So, he understood that how important is to have a democracy in a country. So, he tried to introduce that in China by establishing the republic. He had a plan, he had his philosophy, he had his plan, and his plan was known as 3 principles. He said that without these 3 principles, no one can bring democracy to a nation, no one can create a republic. So, what was his 3 principles? Number 1 was nationalism, that without nationalism, if you don't love your country, then you cannot work for your country. It's very simple. But with this, he also added that overthrowing the Manchu were seen was a nationalistic way, because they thought that the Manchurian rulers were like foreigners. They don't belong to the Chinese tradition, they don't belong to the Chinese tradition. So, they should be overthrown. So, it was done. So, nationalism number 1. Number 2, democracy or establishing democratic government. So, definitely when you have nationalism, when you love your country, when you want to work for your country, when you want a development for your country, you need a democracy. Otherwise, you will be dictatorship, you will be having dictatorship, and in a dictatorship, no development can happen, right? And if happens also, then also after some point of time, it stops. So, secondly, he believed in democracy, and thirdly, he said that socialism regulating capital and equalizing land holdings. That means everyone should be equal. I think in class 9 you have read about socialism. So you know what socialism means. It means that no private property will be there. The lands, the industries, the offices will be belonging to the state government, and the state will distribute it to all its citizens according to their ability. The peasants will get land, an equal amount of land. The workers will be appointed to the factories, to the industries according to their skill, according to their ability. So this was the socialism. So if a question comes to your paper that what do you understand or what do you know about the three principles of Sun Yat-sen, you have to mention these three things with this little bit of information, that nationalism, democracy and socialism. But what he meant about these three principles, that you have to talk about. Okay. With this, he started his protest. The protest became a movement when he started his movement under a political party. The political party's name was Kuomintang. So it was, in short, it was known as GMD. So Kuomintang, they started a movement, a process, a protest after the First World War, because after the First World War, in the peace treaty, in the Paris peace treaty, in the Versailles peace treaty, China thought that they would get some more power, some more profits, but actually they did not get any, but they fought in the First World War. So they were very agitated, so they started protesting, and this protest movement became a actually revolution in China. So after that, they advocated reforms such as the use of simple language in writing, abolishing the practice of food binding and subordination of women, equality in marriage and economic development to end property. So this GMD or Kuomintang, they started a propaganda to advocate reforms like using simple language. Don't make it very complicated. When people are listening to you, when common people are listening to you, if you talk in a language which is alienated to them, so they will not understand anything. So if they can't understand anything, how they will vote for you? Then next is abolishing the practice of foot binding, because there is a Chinese practice that if women's foot are small, it brings good luck. So their foot were binded and they were told, or they were forced to wear iron shoes from a very little age. So their foot used to ache, so their foot could not grow. So it becomes simple and small. To end this system, to end poverty and more other thing. And with this Kuomintang, this GMD, also another party started to emerge. They were the CCP, they are the Chinese Communist Party. But after the death of Sun Yat-sen, another man took the control of Kuomintang. His name was Chiang Kai-shek, and Chiang Kai-shek made another point. He said that Kuomintang is identifying 4 important needs of a man. What are the 4 needs? He said clothing, fooding, housing and transportation. That means food you need proper clothes, you need a shelter, housing, and you need transportation from one place to another. These are the 4 basic needs which a government should provide to each and every citizen of its nation. And with this, they started the campaign to end the warlordism. What is a warlordism? Warlordism is like a gang warship. You know that the different gangs are there, different local leaders are there. So that is called a warlordship. So they started the process to end the system of warlordship. And they had a view that this Western world will bring bad luck for China. Okay. So, I will stop here today. Any questions? Because next day we are going to talk about their contribution of Kuomintang. Anything you want to understand? No doubts. Okay, fine. So, see you on Monday. So, that day I am going to check the maps. Ma'am, is there any dates? No. Riddha, there is no dates for the submission of the assignments. Now what dates are given for class 12, not for you. Okay. So, goodbye.